Well, good afternoon. Whatever the heck time it is. I was the only one taken off guard here, apparently, when I jumped in the chat and saw all the people who thought it started an hour ago. In my mind, it was always 12 Eastern. And so, of course, I had this moment. What time is it? Am I messing up the time change? It is 1 Atlantic, 12 Eastern, 9 Pacific. But I think YouTube got confused, or when I created the event somehow in my Restream software, apparently YouTube was saying it was starting. So apologies for all that. These are the challenges of being spread out across the entire world. But I'm so glad to see so many of you here. When I logged on, do 20 to 1 my time, thinking, here we go. And I saw all the people in the chat, including descriptions of how you're doing your laundry, and talking about weather and things like that. I just thought, hey, maybe I should just show myself out. It's you guys are having a party. No, I'm glad I could jump in and have fun. I'm so glad to be back live here on YouTube. It has been a hot minute. I think, when did I log off here? May, June, something like that. We were doing Wedding Hero Wednesdays. I was doing Friday questions of the week, and just missed you so much that I want to come back on here every week pretty consistently. I say pretty consistently because we'll do next week, and then the week after that, I will be in Wedding MBA with a lot of you in Las Vegas. That is the largest wedding conference, wedding vendor conference in North America, at least, perhaps the Western Hemisphere, and maybe the entire world. Go every year, and I'm looking forward to that, and I'll see many of you there. In the chat, friends, we have members of Unboring Wedding Academy who just can't seem to get enough. Yesterday, we had our private members office hours once a month on the last Tuesday of the month. Members of Unboring Wedding Academy, the community who have purchased the course and have access to the training materials, lifetime membership to our community. We had our little hangout talking about questions, talking about things happening in the Facebook group. But today we are open to the world, and I'm so excited to share with you a couple of questions that I got related to kids and wedding ceremonies and how to handle it best and all that stuff. That seems to be a bit of a sticky wicket for wedding officiants. I think a big fear we always have is what happens if something goes awry in the wedding ceremony. It's uncomfortable for everyone, but of course, everyone in the seats can just kind of shrivel up when something happens. But we, of course, we're standing there in the firing line and essentially in control of everything that's happening. One little tip, one little trick gets you out of any situation. You don't need to worry about it. I'm excited to share with you how to deal with or handle kids. I do want to start with a disclaimer and say kids in the ceremony are an absolute treasure. We love having kids in the ceremony, whether they're in the processional or whether they're just in the seats. It's fine. It's great. Obviously, some people's tolerance level for children being disruptive is different than others. We're all on a kind of continuum. Perhaps if you've had children or are a caretaker of children, your threshold for child, disturbances is a bit higher than those who don't. That's a generalization, but you don't need to worry about kids in the ceremony. But I want to talk about today, in the next 30 minutes or so, depending on how rowdy all of you are in the chat and how many questions you have for me, because I do want to throw this open. I want to talk about points along the way in the ceremony creation process, right until the moment of disruption, ways to handle, like I say, the kind of navigate the waters of having kids in the ceremony. But I want to turn to the chat here because so much of this, and as it was in the past, is you asking me questions, engaging me. I did see Jeff, a member of Unboring Wedding Academy, asking about so how do I get a hold of, Mark and Jen? If you're having a problem, definitely always email us. There's no separate email address. I don't believe we've missed an email from you, Jeff, so please let me know. If you're a member of Unboring Wedding Academy, you, of course, have constant, consistent access to us. This is all I do. It's my full-time job. And like I say, we'll do this week live, next week live, the week after that. I'll be in Vegas, but then we will pick up right where we left off. I'm really excited for the months ahead, being on here every week with you, just like old times. Wedding season did get intense this year, but hey, I'm going to be in this for the long haul. So, anything? Who's in the chat here? It goes back so deep. I believe Elaine was the first one to say, "What the heck is going on?" Ben is here, of course. So thrilled to see that. Kiki, Officiantly, Mike. I'm so glad. So many of the usual suspects, members from yesterday. If you're not a member of Unboring Wedding Academy, not that if you are, you're not important, but I'm seeing so many Mitzi's here. People who I know on a first name basis, people who I'll meet in Vegas at Wedding MBA. But if you are not a member, you jumped in because you're on my email list, or you just got the link from YouTube, one of my 17,000 subscribers, please say hello. Don't be intimidated by all the expertise. We are doing this on a level playing field here. A lot of people ask me, doesn't Unboring Wedding Academy give you everything in the kitchen sink? It does for the ceremony creation process, but the conversation about how to become a more equipped wedding officiant never really ends. That work is never done. And as we mentioned yesterday in our private members office hours, I encountered something about, ring boys coming in after the bride. I had never heard that before. There's always little things happening, which is why you can continue to educate yourself, why you can continue to learn more things. And I know a lot of you, I think Sabra comes to mind, where she is just constantly learning. There's multiple courses out there, varying in different ranges of intensity. Your learning can never be finished. Now, you'll ace it on your very first time as a wedding officiant when you purchase Unboring Wedding Academy. The training absolutely prepares you for creating the ceremony, standing up there, being amazing. But if you want to do this again and again and again and again, you will encounter a lot of different things, different requests from couples, things like that. And I think that's what most of us who are professional wedding officiants are doing. We're on this quest to be as professional as we can, be as knowledgeable as we can. And you always want to be advising your couple of the best way to do something, but then ultimately they are the boss and you pivot to whatever they want. And sometimes that means being disappointed as a wedding officiant. If you wanted to see the ceremony happen a different way, or you wanted to see something in the ceremony, a certain element or something, and it's better, you can just advise the couple, this is better. But ultimately, sometimes they veto that, and then you're not going to have a little sulk or a hissy fit about it. You're going to say, absolutely, let's do it your way. And then even in the back of your mind when you're doing it, this could be better, but that's okay, because ultimately we are serving the couple. So I want to take a drink here and talk about what's going on here. Ben, 17,000 subscribers. It is amazing. And I don't really do very much on YouTube. I do these lives and stuff, but in terms of produced videos, I don't have that many. But that's going to change next year. This is the way that I get to engage with you, and so I absolutely love it. Kiki says, "Are the Pro Office Hours videos saved somewhere? I listened yesterday podcast style while I was driving, so I couldn't chat, but I wasn't sure if they were accessible after the fact." Yes, they are accessible. If you're a member, go back into the email. It's an unlisted, so once you have the link where it happened, you can always go back in and click it. YouTube saves it. It's not public, like I said, because it's kind of like a little bit of an in-house thing. But absolutely. Mike just said that. Great. Keith is here from Stittsville, which I always love to see. That is where I grew up. I think the first time I saw that, Keith, I almost fell off my chair. That's a little suburb outside of Ottawa. I grew up in Fringewood Village. And so cool to see you here. Latina's here. Latina says, "You reminded me of my wedding day. My dad was walking me down the aisle, and the lady he was dating at the time had her granddaughter run up to him mid-walk. Was not thrilled, to say the least." Okay, so yes, some of these things we can say this is not thrilling because we had in our minds a certain way that this would go. That's an expectation, right? And, expectation is the enemy of having a good time. I don't think that's a saying, but I just put it on a bumper sticker. In the sense of when you think something's going to go a certain way and it doesn't, you're upset or, not thrilled. But then when you think about it, you can say to yourself, well, actually, this is not a big deal. And there was nothing really wrong with that. That's why I try to stay away from, when we're talking about wedding ceremonies, I try to stay away from something could go wrong. Just that using that word sets up, the opposite of it went right. And I don't like to use that for something as volatile, erratic as a wedding ceremony. What I mean is you get all these people in one space. You're supposed to be quiet. There is a certain, I guess, playbook, you could say, convention that you want to follow in terms of, so it's recognizable as a wedding ceremony, et cetera, et cetera. But if something happens that you don't expect, it's actually fine. And those of you who are members of Academy know that part of that setting that tone is to start with really fun opening remarks, down to earth, introduce yourself, get people laughing and clapping and participating. And you don't need to be a crazy, show person like you're the master of a 3-ring circus. You don't need to have a huge personality for that. You're all being yourselves. And that is a crucial part of setting the expectation that things might not go as we expect. In fact, I always say that at the back, that's part of rallying the wedding party. The very last thing I do is I always give remarks. Okay. And that's in the course as well, where I talk about the very last thing before you go out there is you give them a little pep talk. And I talk about my formula for that. But we can't get into the weeds of that. But yes, Latina, that is essentially what we are here talking about today. Popular Parties by Pam is here. Hello. That is super cool. That caught my attention. Your parties are very popular, I would assume, because that is your namesake. Tamara is here from Illinois. Jeff, please shoot us an email if you have questions about something. As a member. And Mitzi, thanks for giving kids the shout out they deserve. Yes, like I say, this whole conversation, I want to preface it on kids are super important. We don't want to act like they're an inconvenience. I love kids in the ceremony, coming down the aisle or just being in the ceremony. That said, a lot of couples do. I'm seeing this. No kids, please. Perhaps they write that on their invitation. I don't know, but a lot of couples, not a lot of weddings I officiate, not a kid to be seen. And you think, wow, this must have been explicit somehow. But you leave that to your couple. When there's loads of kids, it does have that kind of rambunctious family get-together feeling, which we are all about at Unboring Wedding as well. Where we're just people hanging out. We're doing this very formal event, very sacred work here, and I don't mean that in the religious sense. I just mean it's a special thing when you have two people promising their lives to each other. I should say not necessarily religious. Of course, it's religious if you're doing it in a religious context, or the couple are believers of a certain faith. But it's just sacred work, getting people standing there promising to be faithful to each other, to be there for each other. That is one of the reasons why this is just the best job ever. Those of us who don't do this professionally know this, but if you're going to officiate for the first time, don't be intimidated. And part of today, the kids thing, is breaking down the walls of feeling so nervous and uptight about unexpected things happening in the ceremony. So in some ways, it's fitting that this is kind of the first episode of the Unboring Wedding Show, because this really is what we're going to talk about today, is kind of endemic of the whole thing that we do. You don't need to be freaked out about something that might happen. We did talk about that yesterday in office hours when I saw the ring boxes and assumed the rings were inside those ring boxes. And then when it was time to do the ring exchange, the best man opened the boxes, and the rings weren't inside. What do you do in that moment? You roll with it, just like everything else. Doris is here from New Jersey. Keep the good stuff coming. Love it. Greetings from Mexico, Eddie says. Too many of you here to say hello. So love it. Elaine says, kids are fun. Awkward when two young ones are holding on to mom's dress and dad's trousers and they are distracted. Makes it very difficult but hard. That is why we're here. So we're holding all these things true at the same time. It is beautiful and wonderful to have kids involved. I have done a ceremony like you, Elaine, it sounds like, where the kid is literally clutched around mom's ankles with a stuffed animal or something like that and won't let go. What do you do in that case? Do you have the narrative in your mind where you say, well, this really sucks, or just tell yourself a new story? And that's why I want to talk to you about two questions I got on this topic in the last couple of weeks. Good segue. The first one was from someone who reached out and said, hey, Mark, I officiated a really small elopement style ceremony. So it was the couple, they had a kid. It was like, 8 or 10 couples, and many of them had children. And so we were in a clearing, and I started the ceremony, and the kids were constantly talking and squirming and just playing around and acting like the ceremony wasn't going on at all. And so this person said to me, I was very flustered by it. I felt like I was speaking for nothing. It seemed to be normal for all of them, but I was really thrown off and, really wasn't enjoying what was going on. What could I have done, or should I have done something differently? So there was that question. And so again, that was a small ceremony. Kids just acting like nothing was happening at all. It was just a play date, essentially. Then I got an email from someone else, one of our members, who talked about how the couple did not want this professional celebrant to say, as she is in her habit, when she notices children in the ceremony space, if your little ones are making some noise and needing a break, feel free to please take them out until they settle and then bring them back in. Very diplomatically worded, something like that. The couple expressly said to her, please don't say that off the top. There are going to be kids there. And we're just going to let whatever happens. And sure enough, when the ceremony was happening, the couple's child apparently was the noisiest of the bunch, kind of a bit of a ringleader. Other kids started acting up as well. And this celebrant said, it was extremely frustrating. I didn't know what to do in the moment. Again, should I have done something differently? In both cases, I don't think I'm not saying the officiants didn't do the right thing or that kind of thing, but it just made me realize, because I put myself in that situation, it has happened to me. How do you handle it? And you do have to use your judgment in the moment, but I do have kind of a bit of a formula over the next 10 minutes or so that I want to share with you. Rockin' Reverend Ron is in the house. Yo, yo, yo. And let's see what's going on here. Great conversations happening. As aside here, you're getting more bang for your buck here. If you're listening to me and consulting people like Andy, who is going to be in Vegas. That's amazing, Andy. Finally, glad to see you. Make sure you mark yourself as going in the Facebook group. I want to buy you, as well as all other members of Unboring Wedding Academy, dinner on the Wednesday night. So we will see you there. Yeah, Kiki, you liked my ring story. That was fun, wasn't it? If you become a member, you can find the link for the replay of that if you haven't seen it yet. So here's what we can do in terms of kids. Now, I advise, as part of our wedding program here on Unboring Wedding Academy, I always meet with the couple 4 to 6 weeks before the day for what I call a wedding workshop. You ask them tons of questions, like 70 questions about the ceremony. This is your ceremony planning session. You want to leave no stone unturned. You want to find out all the things. And at a point in that conversation, you are going to ask, are there any kids in the wedding ceremony? Are there any kids coming down the aisle as part of the processional? Now, sometimes they'll just say, yep, Riley and Reed are the two ring boys, and we have a flower girl named Stacy or something like that. Okay, great. And you just write those names in, and you'll figure out where they come in the processional. I have a whole set of advice around age groups and who should come in first and who should come in last and all that stuff. But we're not going to talk about that here. There's so many wormholes and side trails that I could go on, but I'm going to stay committed to this conversation. But I will say at that time of the workshop, that might be a time when you see that there's going to be kids in the processional. That's a signal in your mind that this is not then a child-free ceremony, which means that there will likely be at least those kids and others there as well. And this is where I love that my celebrant friend, this fellow member, who typically has this conversation right then and there in the workshop about, you might want to say, is it okay for me off the top to mention to parents that if their young one, if their little one needs a bit of a break from the ceremony space, if they're making noise, just need a stretch, that they can, no problem, leave the space and then come back when the little one is settled, something like that. So that is one thing you can do right there in the workshop and gauge your couple's whether or not they are for that. And in this case, this celebrant, she was told not to ask that question. I wonder if this is a case of asking for forgiveness, not for permission. In your opening remarks, which you're typically going to do as a wedding officiant before the processional, before anybody comes in, that's the time where you're just hanging out with the guests. You go to the front, you tell people whether or not they can take photos or whether there's a photo moment, or put all your cameras away. Definitely, turn off the ringers, turn off the phones, all that good stuff. And this is a time where you might want to say, I've noticed. Okay, so you can ask your couple in the workshop about how many kids and get a sense. But then when you arrive at the ceremony space, take a look. Okay, this is you arrive 45 minutes early, you do all the checks, the mic checks and the cue. You go over the cues with the DJ or the band, and you make sure paperwork's in place, and you check the aisle width and all those checks we talk about as professionals or first timers. When you get my script, you get that checklist right off the top. You want to arrive in the space and know exactly what to look for. But another thing you might want to do when it comes to kids is just scan the space and get an idea. If there's just 2 or 3 and they're nursing or asleep or that kind of thing, you're like, this is okay. But if you're noticing there's a bit of a daycare vibe, you might want to get yourself ready to ask that question. So in my case, I'm not sure. If you're just asking my opinion, I'm giving you, options in terms of, you can ask your couple if you can ask that question off the top, and if they have kids or what the kid situation is going to be in general. You might want to ask your couple that in the workshop. Are there going to be kids? How many kids? Is it going to be a very kid-friendly environment? Then you can ask, is it okay if I say something off the top about, if your kids need a break? I'm personally not sure I would do that, like I said, because I tend to lean more towards the ask for forgiveness, not permission piece. I would feel handcuffed, and I think like this celebrant did, if the couple said, no, please don't say anything about that. Because of how you might want to conduct yourself in the ceremony, I just wouldn't want to be straitjacketed by that strange stipulation that they're making. And so when you get to the ceremony space, this is kind of your second traffic cone. I've learned not to say pylon. That's very Canadian, apparently, a pylon. Your second traffic cone, first is the workshop where you ask them about the kids scene. The second one is you arrive on site at the ceremony. Scan the space. That's what that early 45 minutes is for. You're settling in. You've done your checks. Typically, I'm done all that stuff 15, 20 minutes for the ceremony. Sometimes guests are filing in. Sometimes the seats are still empty 15 minutes before. And you wonder if you've got the right start time, like I did today. In this case, all the guests were here already. But that's where you're assessing the space. And then you can kind of prepare in your mind whether or not you want to say something off the top in your opening remarks. Okay, I'm going to just pause here and see what our expert panel of people in the chat, first timers, experienced people. I see I love food, so we're really on topic there in the chat. Did I mention food at any point? What are we talking about here? Reverend Green Brown, been a while since I heard your voice. Big fan of your Unboring Wedding. Huge help. I'm so thrilled to hear. I know it has been a while, right? And I'm thrilled to be here. Okay, and there's stuff about the planner happening. Jeff, Efficient Mike is giving great advice. I think, Jeff, your ceremony is this weekend. I agree with Jeff. This is, again, another potential rabbit trail here. Don't sweat the planner. They're doing their job. Remember, wedding planners are always going off of the worst wedding officiants they've ever seen, and they've seen many. So when they approach you in that way, it's kind of like when you go to a store and you get really rude customer service from the person behind the desk. You can't take it personally. Of course, your expectations can be higher for someone in customer service, but the reason why that person is acting that way usually is because of the 300 terrible customers they've had before you got in front of their face. You know you're an amazing customer, and it's no excuse the way they're behaving, but that's what they're bringing to the job. And it's similar with a planner. Sometimes planners are just, as soon as they see you, wedding officiant, they think totally incompetent human being. Uh, and that's just based on their very unfortunate experiences. You are going to change that because you're amazing. Oh, we're talking about dinner in Vegas. Good. Well, that's always on topic because those of us who are wedding MBA, as you know, I'm sending you emails about our plans for me to buy you dinner in Vegas. I just love getting us around that big table. It's going to be loads of fun. Kiki says she agrees with not asking the couple because I honestly think that they haven't really processed kids acting up at the time of the wedding workshop. They haven't seen things from our perspective. Yeah, I think we're going to approach this differently, like so many things. We have our own grooves. We have our own routines. I don't think I would ask the couple, is it okay that I ask? And I'm not sure that this celebrant did either. Somehow it came up. Maybe they proactively said, and please don't say anything, in which case, again, the advice thing that I said off the top, I would say, well, I won't say anything off the top, but if things are going really awry, what do you suggest we do? And that's a good segue into now, what do you do? Let's say you've started the ceremony, you are in the grip of the elements, and like I say, I've had a situation where a kid, mama, and wrapping himself around the legs of the mom, or you think of that email I got about the elopement where kids are just playing freely as though it's a play date of some sort, and there you are trying to get through the ceremony. And what I replied to that particular person was this. I seized on this one line that this person said in their email. They said they were acting like nothing was wrong or nothing was different. They were acting like this is just a normal thing. And I was so flustered by it. Now, again, you're responding flustered. That's fine. That's a normal response when your expectation and other weddings is people sitting, listening, laughing. It's like watching a movie. That would really bother me if I'm watching The Pianist or some kind of serious movie. Like, I'm thinking back, I had a very unpleasant movie theater experience when I was watching The Pianist in particular, a very serious World War II movie. People behind me chatting the whole time. It's just one of those things where you're like, this is ruining the movie. When we're officiants and we know what it's like to have a wrapped audience, all the guests and the couple, we know it's much better. But what I replied to this person is, the thing that I would advise you is, you said it wasn't bothering anyone there. It wasn't bothering the couple. It wasn't bothering the litany of parents, with their kids. In fact, you were the only one who seemed bothered by it. That's an understandable response, by the way. You need to have permission for your feelings to come up. But days later, when you're, reaching out to me in an email and saying, what could I have done? What should I have done? It really sucked. I said, but nobody there was bothered at all. And that is the really important thing to realize in the moment, I think. In terms of what I said at the top, you're going to need to make a judgment call of what you do. And when something goes wrong, again, I don't like to use that expression. So when something unexpected happens, that's the language I use in the ceremony, and it is unexpected if people are being disruptive, little ones especially, but hey, they're wired this way typically. If you're feeling antagonized by that, and you look out and no one seems to be bothered at all, and you can take a quick read of that, I'm confident that you can, then it's just time to let it go. And that's what I said. I would say you need to let it go as in the ceremony, and then especially after. You don't need to be banging your head against the wall about, did I do the right thing? Should I have done something different? If you look out and you say and you see the couple's fine with it, uh, and everyone else is fine with it, then just keep rolling. Now, I will take this moment to say what I do when little one is wrapped around mom's ankles or kids are obviously being disruptive like that. You do want to be respectful of everyone there. Again, you think of people talking in the movie. You need to assess whether or not, is it just me being bothered by this? And when anything unexpected happens in a ceremony, a lamp falls over, or some like a tractor is backing up really loudly or something nearby. I think of like a barn venue or something. I was giving an outdoor talk recently, and somebody started mowing their lawn, and I just had to say, it's Saturday afternoon. You mow your lawn, especially when there's someone talking right within eyesight. And everybody laughed, right? You've just got to say what's happening. And so typically, when this happens with kids being disruptive and things like that, I just stop and I say to the couple, how are we doing? Would we like to pause for a moment? Or would we like to proceed? Now, what that does is you're putting the couple in the driver's seat. You are not calling out the kid or the parent. There's no shame involved. You don't know that parent either. It's typically going to be a friend or relative of the couple. And so whenever, if the noise gets really, like if one kid is screaming or shouting or something like that, I will often just say, let's just take a moment here. Should we just pause, or would you like to proceed? So whether it's one kid screaming, because then sometimes the bride will say, yeah, let's take a moment. And then that's kind of the permission to say, if I like to say something like, it's beautiful when people cry at weddings, but it has to be within reason, kind of make a humorous remark, and you can put that in your bank and use it if you'd like. It's beautiful when people cry at weddings, but it's getting a little hard to hear up here, that kind of thing. And again, if you've already mentioned off the top that little ones would be invited to take a stretch break and join us again when they've settled, then that's, you're kind of fulfilling that in the moment. So my advice is to ask the couple whether we should stop or whether we should proceed. And when there was a little one wrapped around mom's ankle or that kind of thing, I stopped and said, are we comfortable enough down there? How are we doing? And how are you doing? Do we need to take a little break with little Daniel here? You just give it permission to happen. Again, in your mind, you're like, this is not how a ceremony is supposed to go. There's not supposed to be a kid wrapped around his mom's ankle. But when you let go of that, then it's completely normal in the moment, actually, and you're giving it permission to be normative. And that is true of even, I would say, disruption or disturbance. It's okay. Dude starts mowing his lawn. In your mind, that wasn't going to happen. In reality, it's happening, and you give it permission to happen. And so stop, ask the couple, acknowledge what's happening, especially if it's like right here in front of you, and just go with it. Because again, expectation is really the enemy of you having a good time and enjoying the moment. When it comes to the other celebrant, she just said again, their kid was really disruptive. I wasn't given permission to say the thing off the top, but it would still hold true. If it was very disruptive, I would stop and say, shall we proceed? Are you okay with kind of what's happening here? Use diplomatic language. You never want to shame anyone, never want to embarrass anyone. People are uncomfortable. They know, oh my gosh, someone's mowing the lawn. Oh my gosh, these kids are being really disruptive. Unless they're not. See our other example where nobody cared. But sometimes the kids are going to be grating on some people. This is where you put the responsibility on the friends and on the couple, because it's their friends and family, and they might know, oh my gosh, that's Sadie's kid, always a noisy brat. That's fine, whatever. Or I've had brides say, just look and say, can you, and they, yes, okay. Or couples will often take the hint. A mother or a father will often take a hint, and when you ask the couple, and then when you say, it's beautiful when people cry at weddings, it's just getting a little tough to hear up here. You just give permission for it to happen. Make light of it. Never shame anyone or make anyone feel bad. Like I say, when everyone's cringing and it's your responsibility to channel that somehow, I think of the martial arts that uses the motion of the opponent and overcomes it that way. That's how I think about moments like this in a ceremony. Use the motion of what's happening, and instead of resisting it, just go with it. This is happening. Are we okay? How are you doing down there, little Daniel? Do you need anything to be more comfortable? If you just lean into it. I talked about improv yesterday. When you think about improv is yes and, right? If you've seen really good improv, if somebody says, we're cooking spaghetti on the moon, you don't say no. You make it even more outrageous. Well, we forgot the cheese. How are we going to get cheese up here on the moon? I take what you're doing and I do more with it. And so when you have kids, you can resist them, be quiet. Or, like I say, you can say, how are we doing up here? Is this all good? Are you comfortable? People cry at weddings. Isn't it beautiful? Go with it. Kind of practice your improv chops a little bit. There is nothing to worry about. What's going to happen is going to happen. And if the kids continue to disrupt, you might think so, but you look out, no one's bothered, the couple has given you the green light, then it's not your responsibility. You haven't done anything wrong and you can't change anything. You're just going to go with it. It's the couple's call. It's their wedding. They're likely not thinking about it at all. And don't compare it to other ceremonies you've done or how much better it would have been if, because you're not the star of the show. You're getting them married. The pep talk that I say at the back to the bridal party and the wedding party is always, whatever happens up there, we're going to get these two hitched. And so just roll with it. Use the motion of what's happening to overcome it. Everyone will be comfortable. You don't have to feel like on the drive home gripping the steering wheel. Should I have done anything differently? You'll feel that way if you come out as a jerk, make the kids be quiet or something. That is not your responsibility by any means. So just absolve yourself of that. Go with it, okay? All right, hopefully that made sense. What am I missing here? I go back in here and I say the moon is made of cheese. See, you would be amazing at improv. That's why you're an amazing wedding officiant as well. Maybe I don't know this side of you, but that was amazing. Okay, let's see. I've missed a lot here. I don't even know if I should go back because wow. Mitzi says here, maybe we officiants should see what philosophers, religious people, spiritual, non-religious people, leaders have to say about the wisdom and medicine of children. Give a little quote about that. That is so good. It's always good to have something ready for kids. And if you had that little thing in your binder or memorized it, that you're right. That's really, really great. Karen, love that you're here from Florida. You're here yesterday, here again today. And yes, Isabel, put the ball in their court. You're just hosting and giving space, right, to their ceremony. So when you say, how are we doing? Would you like to proceed? Are you comfortable with everything that's going on here? Do we need to take a pause? Use your judgment in terms of how you want to phrase that. Do we need to take a pause? Do we need to take a break for the little ones? Something like that. And a lot of the time the couple will say, no, it's okay. Or they'll just look over and kind of laugh, and then you can make the person feel comfortable. Okay. I'm glad you think that Mark has trained us amazingly. Absolutely I love that. That's what I do. That makes my day. Thank you so much. What else am I? Anything? This is your chance now to ask questions before we pop off here. Hopefully that was helpful. Next week we are going to have a new topic, of course, based on another question I got. So as I've said before, this show will be sometimes Q&A, sometimes straight up, maybe teaching a topic that I feel is really important or relevant right now, some trends that officiants are seeing, that kind of thing. I will take this moment if you want to ask me a question to say I am running a sale on Unboring Wedding Academy tomorrow and the next day. We are not doing a Black Friday sale of Unboring Wedding Academy this year because that is the launch of Officiantly that weekend, which is our ceremony creation and management platform. I'll be focusing on offering that to members of Unboring Wedding Academy. So that's going to be a huge effort, major launch for this software that I have spent the whole year developing, $25,000 project. I'm just building it for myself if nobody else buys it, uh, because I can't wait to use it in 2025 for all my ceremonies. But why I'm mentioning that today is I will be emailing my list, people who sign up for Unboring Wedding Academy. You can get that tomorrow, Halloween Day, totally unrelated. I'm not going to make any scary comments here. Halloween Day and November 1st, Friday, you can get Unboring Wedding Academy for the 50% off. I just popped a link in the YouTube comments there, and you can uh, go to that link and put your email address in if you want to join the wait list and find out about that tomorrow morning. I'll send you the special sales page where you can get Unboring Wedding Academy for $297. The reason why I'm doing this today is because, again, I want to get people in. If you wanted to be a member ever, you get the full course. You get access to this amazing community of 700 plus people in the Facebook group. You get the amazing end of the month office hours. You get unlimited access to the Love Story Caster. That's our tool that will write your couple's love story for you. You'll see all those details on the page I send you tomorrow. But once you're only members will be given an offer to join Officiantly. Everyone will get access to the freemium version, which is one free ceremony. So the full features for one ceremony. But if you want to go on and use it for more ceremonies, 2, 3, 10, 100 in a year, you will be asked to pay a licensing fee annually. But on Black Friday, I'm going to make it one charge, once only, lifetime membership to Officiantly. That is our launch weekend special. So because I'll be focusing on that and offering it just to members, we're doing our typical Black Friday sale over the next 2 days, because then I'm going to spend the month focusing on Wedding MBA, getting things in place for that, doing the final tweaks of Officiantly. Any questions? Yeah, no more copy and paste. Exactly. No more Google Docs and Google Sheets and Google Forms. It all happens inside the platform. It automates all the steps of your ceremony creation process. But then also, when you purchase the premium version, you can have as many ceremonies as you want in there, which is amazing. More on that to come at the end of the month. Don't want to go down that rabbit hole. So many rabbit holes. And because there's so much to talk about. I love it. Okay, you're getting page not found. You are getting page not found. Thanks for clicking. I'm not getting page not found. Why are you getting page not found? Let me see. Okay. No, I'm wondering why you're getting that. Okay, well, I will get to work on that. I don't want to troubleshoot that right now. You should not be getting page not found. Link is not working. Why is it working for me and no one else? I wonder if it's because I am posting it in the software somehow. I'll have to look at this. There's some glitches today with this software that I. And let me see if I paste it in here. If you get it now. Oh, working now. Okay. All right. I don't know. Well, great. We're doing it live. Anything can happen live. This is why we go live, to show how we pivot in the moment, just like a wedding officiant. Things don't go wrong, right? They just go unexpectedly. And sometimes things happen unexpectedly. Okay, so everybody saw. Some people saw page not found. Some people said see it's working. Okay, good. Um, any other questions about anything before we conclude episode 1? And I'll see you next week. Next week, I think I'm going to commit now to talking about how to approach wedding vendors and wedding venues when you are a professional. in a way that will be successful. A lot of officiants go to a venue or approach a vendor. In your mind, you want to be referred. You want to target that big wedding planner that has 100, premium weddings per year. How do you get in good with that wedding planner or that incredible luxe venue on the hillside where $1 million weddings happen? How do you get in there as a wedding officiant? I want to talk to you about the best way to approach venues, vendors, that kind of thing. It's some hot tips straight from Unboring Wedding Pro. That's the pro course. But I always love hearing what you have to say about this in the chat. This is why I love this forum here. Doing this is because there's a lot of first timers in the chat, people who've never officiated yet, maybe bought the course, maybe didn't buy the course. And then, of course, you can tell there's members here who've been members for years and years, old, grizzled veterans of the trade. You can tell who they are. Some of us are more grizzled than others. Some of you are aging quite gracefully, and uh, and that's what I love is we all make each other better. Like I said, there's so much to learn. You're never done learning as a wedding officiant. That's why you go to things like Wedding MBA. That's why there's always a course you can purchase, or retreat to go on, or that kind of thing. Because you can always be learning, educating yourself, getting better, being ready for anything, and advising your couple in a more and more way. Okay. Let's see. Things go the way they're meant to. We're not in control of outcomes. Go with the flow. That's a great way of summing it up. Okay, Kiki has a question above. Gotta scroll up. Kiki, do you mind saying it again? I'm sorry. Okay, found it. How do you suggest using your techniques for a very small, intimate wedding? The one I did for my nephew was 20 people, and getting people hyped was somewhat awkward. Yeah, I don't typically get people hyped for a 20 person. I know you said that because you get people hyped when it's a bigger crowd. Um, you've hit on it. You kind of know if you're having a dinner party, you don't get people hyped, but you see how if you're at a concert and you get on stage or wedding MBA, I'm going to get on the stage and get people hyped. But what I do on the stage there is not what I would do for a small retreat. So that's you've put your finger on it. You don't have to get people hyped for a small ceremony. What you want to do, of course, though, is give them permission to feel like they can break the fourth wall. So whenever I get up in front of a wedding ceremony crowd, whether it's 20 people or 200 people, I imagine like a plexiglass sheet between us. This is why people ask me, should I bring a podium up there, that kind of thing. I always say, try not to. Obviously, if you have special needs, then that's one thing to have a lectern, but ideally, you don't want to have things between you and the guests, even if that's imaginary. And so, um, how do you suggest using the techniques? You get out there, and this is why I say you do not need to be a hype person. I have seen this on the internet or that kind of thing where people, hey, everybody, you're in the aisle, you're cracking lots of jokes, big personality. If you're like that, that's fine. Some people are like that, but it's really intimidating for people who aren't like that. And frankly, it's not teachable if you're not like that. Whereas my approach works for everyone. You can be the quietest little person, and you can walk up there and you can say, "Good afternoon, everyone," and no one says anything back. And then, of course, I like to say, I don't know if you've noticed, but we have this whole place to ourselves and we can be as rowdy as we want to be. So, can we try that again? Good afternoon, everyone. And then, of course, you've kind of persuaded them. I don't know if you've read that book, Persuasion. I'm super into marketing. And when you use a word like rowdy, there's tests that show if you start a survey by saying, "Are you a helpful person?" The person says yes. And then you ask them the question, they're more likely to answer more questions or answer better. And it's really just because you ask that question that they almost, "Are you helpful? Are you helpful?" Yes. There's things like that where you time how people are thinking, and this is one of those cases where I like to actually use the word rowdy. I don't know if you noticed, but we have the whole place to ourselves. We're allowed to be as rowdy as we want to be. And you've kind of primed them. We can be rowdy. Now, that again might work for lots of people, but you might not want to use the word rowdy for 20 people, or you might, but you're not gonna use a shouty outdoor voice for 20 people sitting there. I've done these weddings. just a couple, maybe they're older kids and their partners, and you talk to them. You know, "How are you doing? Are you ready? Are you ready to get, Alice and Sandra married? Are we ready for this?" People clap, you know, and they're saying, yes, we are." But it's obviously not the cheering, but you need to get them responding off the bat, no matter how small or big the group is. When it's an elopement and you're really just standing around, you're going to address the couple because it's so small, maybe just 5 people. Whereas when it's a big crowd, you are addressing the crowd the whole time and telling their story. So there are ways to adjust. But if you're so techniques, that's pretty sweeping. We don't have time for all the techniques. But I'm just focusing on, like you say, hyping them at the beginning. The hype is giving them permission to break that plexiglass that I always envision. I imagine, let's shatter that. So when you ask a question and get them to respond, you've broken figurative ice, which I imagine almost literally to help me get a sense of. And then you give your opening remarks, turn off your phones, etc. And then of course I ask them, should we get to it? Should we get these two hitched? Yes, and they'll say, "Yes, let's do it," even if it's just a few of them. "Yeah, let's do it." It might not be a roar. There's only like 8 people, but that's still great. You can even ask the kids. Again, this is an example. Let's tie this back into kids. Kids are so great to talk back and forth to. Everybody loves it, and so when there's little kids, I might look at one of the kids and say, "Are you do you wanna should we get these 2 married?" And it'll provide some comic relief. The kid might be like, "Ew, no." Or you could say, "Do you know what's happening here today?" And the kid might say, you know, shake their head. You say, "We're here to get these 2 married, so should we do it? Should we get them?" You know? So, just I'm imagining the most intimate setting where you're doing that, and I'm imagining 250 people, where I imagine I don't know why, Cantor Mark comes to mind, where he's got these huge weddings, the pictures that I've seen, bigger than anything I've ever officiated up here in Canada. We're a lot tighter with our guest lists in Canada, apparently, than some of the things I've seen. But hopefully, Kiki, that was helpful. Yes, you don't want to hype people because it's awkward. People will feel like the artificialness, like I said, if it's not matching the setting. If I come in and start a retreat in my living room with, "Hey, everybody, are you ready?" People would be like, "What are you? What did you take?" So, yeah, you don't need to do that. You never need to do that. Even if it's 220 people, when you're just talking to them, um, I really want my techniques to work for every kind of personality. I don't walk up and down the aisle and back and forth and that kind of thing. I'm very reserved up there because I know I'm a big personality. I know my story is going to do all the work. It's all about the couple. I'm verging very close now into my wedding MBA talk, and I got to hold all those beans. That's going to be fun. I'm leading off a wedding MBA at 2 o'clock in Vegas, and I'm going to talk about making it all about the. Okay, so no screaming kids, wrong rowdy. I feel like we're just we are yes the wrong kind of rowdy. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you. Hopefully that was helpful. I'm seeing things awesome. Next week, I'll try not to be so confusing about the start time, but whatever YouTube says, the thumbnail said Wednesday, 12 Eastern. And so let's go with that. Until I get the sense, um, unless I get the sense that you want a different time, it's hard to make everyone happy. Scotland, 4 p.m. I remember I saw that yesterday. One of our members, it's 4 p.m. in Scotland. Uh, let's keep it nice and consistent. 12 Eastern, 9 Pacific. I will see you next week for episode 2. We'll talk about something more kind of professionally, more business sidey. And again, if you want to get that special offer for Unboring Wedding Academy, all the goodness that Karen has. Pop your email in there in that page, the link that I sent. I'll also put it in the description of this video when you're done here, so that tomorrow morning you can get the offer. It's less than 48 hours, but I just want to get as many people in as you can, especially if you want to try efficiently and be part of that amazing launch weekend where I'll be doing live training that weekend, introducing the new software, how to use it, all that good stuff. And then we will launch the software as part of a standard part of Unboring Wedding Academy uh, next year to anybody who joins. But right now, it's kind of like we're grandfathering everybody in as the launch all manageable. And so I'm looking forward to that. Thank you, everybody, and really appreciate it. Thanks. I just love spending Wednesdays with you. I can't wait to do this into the new year and beyond. All right. Thanks.